Get a load of this!
How's it going, guys? And I'm here with your review of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. Can't even believe it, like, already up to Episode 3. Like, we waited so long for this series, a whole entire year, pretty much. And, you know, we're already, like, well into it. And I don't know how many episodes are in this season. I don't know if they've even announced it yet, but, so far, so good. I've been really enjoying the episodes. Like I said, episode 2 was still great. I just thought it was a little bit of a come down from the season premiere, but that's usually kind of how it is because they always want to put their best foot forward, especially after you've been absent for so long. And, you know, there's been so much happening this year that, like, you kind of had no choice but to make a big bang with that first one. And I know the first thing that everyone is going to think here, you know, Sasha Banks in this episode. Now, I know that I don't review WWE anymore on this channel, at least not for now, and I don't really have any plans to do so. But everyone I know is probably laughing that, Brad, you know, because they all know how much I hate Sasha Banks and, you know, and I dislike her and just everything about her. You know, and somehow, some way she makes it into, like, my current favorite show. I know people are probably laughing at me saying, you tried to escape wrestling, but she followed you right in. So, you know, but she only really has 2 speaking parts, very short. And I'll explain how she factors into all of this. And we're probably never going to see her again. We're probably never going to see these characters again unless, you know, it's maybe like in a season finale. And I'll explain that in a bit. So Mando and the child, their, you know, ship has been totally destroyed during the last episode after facing off against those arachnid horrors. So they land on a harbor planet, and the first thing you see, which was like really cool to me, is like these recycled kind of harbor cranes that like are meant to like pull things out of the water, pull things out of the harbor, and they're like the legs of the AT-ATs, and I thought that was like really cool. And the first species that you lay eyes on is the Mon Calamari, which of course is the Admiral Akbar species. And you know, right away you're brought back into the original trilogy, and you know, I like it because I kind of think to myself that on this planet they kind of recycled an AT-AT and repurposed it, you know, so these people could do their labor in the harbor. And I thought that that was a pretty cool idea. It really gives that like post-Empire feel. And I thought that that was a really cool touch. And I'm pretty sure that's what was intended there because those legs looked very familiar to me. And then, of course, you see the Quarren. And I had to look up the species. You know, the Quarren are those squid-faced species that you always see in Star Wars. But, like, you know, I don't think many people really know the species name because it's something that doesn't come up, you know, in the movies. So, you know, it's really, that's something that people have learned from the books, from the expanded universe. So finally, you know, he's been accompanied by that frog from the second episode, the mother who was trying to get her unfertilized eggs onto this planet, and finally meets up with the father. So right now, Mando is now tasked with finding the other Mandalorians that the father claimed that was there. So he talks to one of the Quarrens in a bar or a restaurant of some sort, and he says, you know, we'll sail you over to those Mandalorians, you know, for a fee. Once they get on the boat, things get really sketchy. There's this giant creature that they feed. They knock the child, and Mando jumps in after it. They close the gate over the top of the little trap where this sea creature is, and we see 3 Mandalorians fly in. They totally just kick the asses of all these Quarrens, these squid-faced bad guys, and they take off their helmets, and right away Mando's like, you're not Mandalorians because you've taken off your helmets. But they explain that, they're not doing anything wrong. That Mando actually belongs to something called the Children of the Watch, and he's a child of the Watch, and they call them religious zealots, that they're stuck in the past and they're trying to, get the old ways going again. So we find out that, like, this is, different Mandalorians are different. Mando came from a different sect that's, like, really old school, and this is, like, the new school. And so, one of the Mandalorians, when they take their helmet off, it's Sasha Banks. And I know what people are going to say, and I have to use the old Godfather Part 3 phrase, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And no, she only has like 2 speaking parts. And there's the guy in there, there's like a male Mandalorian, and he doesn't say anything at all. I mean, I don't think he has any speaking parts. The main Mandalorian is the one who does all the talking, so, you've got another female there. And she says that they will help Mando find a Jedi, because he tells them that he's looking to bring the child to the Jedi. So she says, I'll bring you to the Jedi, but you got to do me a favor first. And so what they do is they're after Imperial arms. They're going onto a ship while it's in mid-flight, and they want to raid this ship and take all their weapons. And this is where things get really interesting. We got a really cool scene with them going through hordes of stormtroopers. And we finally get to see, because I don't think we've really seen this yet. I think there was, no, I didn't really see these uniforms. There was no real episodes in the first season. We've seen Imperials, but we finally got to see, like an admiral or like a lieutenant or somebody, like the old school military style uniforms for the Imperial officers. Yeah, that's probably the right name to say, the Imperial officers. So we finally get to see them, and we see Gideon on a hologram, and, the Mandalorians are taking over the ship. One of the officers seals the Mandalorians between 2 doors, seals them in the cargo hatch, and where the controls are. And there's this really funny scene, like, where they're in the cockpit, and I guess he's like an admiral, and he says, where did you lock them? And he's like, oh, I have them near the cargo controls. And just as he's finishing his sentence, the whole cargo bay opens up and everybody goes flying out of the back of the ship. I thought that was a really funny part. So when they finally make their way to the cockpit, we see Gideon, and he says, under no circumstances, are they going to take over this ship. You know what you got to do. He's not giving them backup. They're saying that they're going to take over the ship. Mando's upset. He said, this was not part of the deal. I was only here for you to get the weapons, but they're going to take over the ship. So the commanding officer shoots both of his subordinates, and he takes over the ship and starts, nosediving it, like going right into the harbor. And I was like, oh man, this guy's going kamikaze. I thought that was a really nice swerve right there. You never really saw anything like that in Star Wars. You never seen like an Imperial officer committing suicide. Like that was like really like an intense original moment. And I like when the Star Wars universe gets creative like that and throws these twists and turns in there. Like, oh man, like I like when I say to myself, well, you never saw this in the original trilogy. And that's why, I was a bit more comfortable with the the sequel trilogy. And I gotta tell you guys, that was another thing I've been meaning to make a video on. I recently rewatched The Rise of Skywalker, and I have a lot of different opinions on it than when I first reviewed it back at the end of 2019 when it first came out. We'll do that in a separate video. But, there were many moments that I think people had problems with in the sequel trilogy. And I'm open to, like, new concepts. And I like when they throw things in, like, different behavior. Because not every character or Imperial should be the same. There should be different things. And what we see here from Gideon is he's ruthless. Like, but under no circumstance are they taking over that ship. Even if you gotta kill yourself. And that's exactly what happens. They want to get to him, The Mandalorians grab him, and he says, we're going to keep you alive, but they're going to use him for information. But suddenly he says, well, you could, he says, you might let me live, but Gideon won't. And then you see this, like, electric shock, like, take over his whole body inside his mouth, and he just falls dead. And I think he probably did that to himself. That's kind of like, you kind of think of, like, in the military, like the suicide pill, like the cyanide pill, and that's kind of like what that was. Like, I'm not getting taken hostage. I'm gonna kill myself. And that was like, you kind of expect that from, like, the Imperials, like, no holds barred, and that's, I thought that was also, like, a really nice touch there. Like, just when you think, like, oh, the good guys won, and, they're gonna take the bad guy prisoner, and he just kills himself. So, a lot of, like, surprises, like, one after another, which was great. And so, when they finally get to talking, the lead Mandalorian, this chick tells Mando that, if he's interested in finding a Jedi, tells him to go to a planet where Ahsoka Tano is going to be waiting for him. And, I don't really know much about Ahsoka. Like, I have only really seen the first season of the Clone Wars. So, I don't really know too much about this character. And, I mean, that's just probably, bad on me because, I should have watched it and everything. But I don't, every single time, like, I've watched the Clone Wars, I just don't feel super into it like I do with The Mandalorian. And I think a lot has to do with the art style. Like 2003 Clone Wars is, like, always going to be my Clone Wars. If the Clone Wars was like that, if 2008 Clone Wars was like that, then I would be fully on board. But it's just something about that show. I know there's, like, so much, like, awesome stuff in it, like Darth Maul, this character gets developed more, but I don't know. One of these days I'm going to sit down and really give it more of a fair chance, because, right here they're going to be introducing, I know people, I haven't really seen the opinions before making this review, but I'm sure a lot of Clone Wars fans are going crazy over the fact that Ahsoka Tano is there, going to be in the 4th episode, or I don't know if they're going to get to the planet in the 4th episode, but one of the future episodes. So, it's good, I guess. I don't know. I was kind of hoping for more of, like, an original Jedi. Like, I've seen Ahsoka. I am not crazy about Ahsoka's design and everything like that. I don't know what it is. A lot of people had very negative opinions of Ahsoka in the first season, like, about her kind of being annoying and being a child. And I know she matures, and that's part of her character development, but I've just never been crazy just about Ahsoka at all. Like, I don't know. I guess I really have to get into the later seasons to really fully appreciate Ahsoka. And I know many people, like, they're like this, like, listening to me, like, oh, you better not say anything bad, because I know a lot of people have really warmed up to Ahsoka. And, they're big fans of Ahsoka, and they really like the way her character developed during the Clone Wars. And, hey, like I said, I can't really fairly judge the show because I haven't seen it the whole way through. It's just that, from what I've seen, and I know I really haven't seen much of it, it was very, very hard for me to get into it. But anyway, I thought that this was a really good episode. It really felt like they were going places in this series, kind of leading into the overall plot, with finding a Jedi, and it seems like Mando's been set on the right track thanks to these Mandalorians that helped him out. We got to see more of his kind. There was a really cool battle with the Imperials. We got to see different scenery. And I really like that, we're always traveling around to new planets in these episodes. It's always fresh, and it always feels new. And I know a lot of people have complained that they're doing too much moving around, but I think that's what keeps this show exciting. It feels like a real adventure, And, you know, even though some episodes may seem better than others, it doesn't really matter because I always feel excited during each episode, like waiting to see what happens next. And you're always guaranteed fun entertainment and funny moments. And they're always there in this show. There's just so much great humor, so much great action. Like I said, and once again, like during the credits, like amazing artwork. I mean, there's so much to like about this show. And I know it's like swooning over it, but it's just so well done. And I'm so happy that like the quality remained consistent from the first season and carried over to the second. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you thought about this episode down in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all notifications when I post on my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.